Hello, everybody. Welcome to a quick edition of Hawk Blogger Mornings in the afternoon. Special episode as we've got some big news that just broke about the Seahawks. This is a team that, as we talked about just a few days earlier, had 12 players on either the PUP or the NFI non-football injury list. And those players have slowly but surely been creeping back off of those lists. We got Anthony Bradford back, who will be part of the right guard competition. D. Williams, who's an undrafted free agent, who is expected to at least compete as a punt and kick returner. But the big news, honestly, just broke where the Seahawks, John Boyles reported, have announced that their starting linebackers, Jerome Baker and Tyrel Dodson, have passed their physicals and will be coming off of the PUP list the day before camp begins. This could not be better news, to be very frank, because that is a position of real question for this team. It is a position that went from, first ballot Hall of Famer and Bobby Wagner, no matter what you think about how he played in certain situations last year. This is still one of the best run stuffing linebackers in the game, one of the smartest linebackers in the game, one of the best leaders in the game. And Jordan Brooks, who was a highly thought of starting linebacker as well, who signed a big deal in Miami, or a big-ish deal in Miami. And the Seahawks brought in two kind of question marks at that position. Jerome Baker essentially was traded with Jordan Brooks, not literally, but Miami signed Brooks. Seattle signed Baker. They traded essentially who was a starting linebacker for them last year. Baker is the more well-known of the two, has been a starter for a number of years. And the fact that he is, that he was coming to Seattle was a pretty big get for them, given where the linebacker market was at that moment. And then they added Tyrel Dodson, who is one of the real question marks for the free agent situation. This was a guy who was an undrafted free agent, basically played special teams for 3.5 years. And then Matt Milano was injured last season and for Buffalo. And lo and behold, that gave Tyrel Dodson an opportunity to start. And oh, what a job he did with that opportunity. He was, during the time that he played last season, one of the best linebackers in football. And he only did it for a certain number of games, like 8 games or so. But the real question mark was this just a flash in the pan? Is this a guy that can do this over the course of the year? And I honestly just misspoke. I just had to make sure I reminded myself, because I didn't want to oversell. But he was the number 1 graded linebacker in the NFL last season, according to Pro Football Focus. He had a 90.2 grade. He had an 86.1 run defense grade. He had an 88.4 coverage grade. He also, just for good measure, had a 72.8 pass rush grade. This was a guy who was playing exceptional football last year, but he did it on only about 600 snaps, where you got a guy like Fred Warner who's got twice that many. So exciting, high potential, interesting, but question mark. And so you got two guys that have never played together coming to play in a situation where, with a new head coach, a new defensive philosophy, a number of new guys and a number of young guys on defense. And that's a lot to kind of hope that all coalesces. But you throw on top of that neither one of them took a snap during OTAs or minicamp due to injury. And then 6 weeks later, when the Seahawks announced their PUP and NFI lists ahead of training camp, both players were on the PUP list. That was a pretty concerning situation. And the good news is those guys have reported. They passed their physical. They are now set to practice for this team, and we can begin the process of understanding how they're going to play together, how they're going to communicate together, how do they fit, who's going to play Mike, who's going to play Will. Uh, how did these guys rotate relative to the other linebackers on this team? We're going to find out all of that. The coaches need to learn them. Their teammates need to learn about them. Leonard Williams, during his press conference at the end of minicamp, was asked if he's had a chance to kind of create any chemistry with new players like Jerome Baker or his starting linebackers, even though they haven't been on the field. And he kind of politely was like, not really. I mean, this is the thing is if you're not on the field, you kind of are invisible. That's just the way it's harsh, but it's true. And so when these guys were injured, it really stunted the early opportunities for them to build those connections with their teammates, to learn this defense, to become, a key part of that locker room. If they had missed meaningful time in training camp as well, honestly, it just would have been a big problem. So the fact that both of those guys, as of just a few minutes ago, it was announced that they've passed their physicals, that they're off PUP. That is fantastic news. So I am super eager to get eyes on them tomorrow, along with everybody else. I was literally in the middle of writing out my 90-man roster preview and handout that I think a lot of people like to take to the camp so they have some idea of who these players are that they can follow along. If you're bringing someone to camp who isn't quite as well versed as you are and who these players are, print one of these things out. Anyway, I was about 65 players through. I had literally already written for Jerome Baker. In fact, why don't I just read it out loud? I had written for Jerome Baker something along the lines of, this is a guy that needs to get on the field. Where was I? Yes. Jerome Baker. I wrote scroll. Jerome Baker is number 17, by the way. Interesting number for a linebacker, 17. I said he's essentially traded from Miami to Seattle for Jordan Brooks. Must get healthy. I'm going to have to go back and edit that because he is healthy right now. So big deal there. And I will be posting this handout, this roster up on hawkblogger.com later this afternoon, probably within the hour. So keep an eye out for that. I will post it on Twitter and other places for you to find as well. But this is big. And so we're going to see. Maybe we will get some more good news. Likely this means that the other guys that were on PUP are going to stay there. I think that part of why this happened right now was because the guys were arriving today. They had their physicals. So you'd think if there was other guys that passed their physical, we probably would have heard about them as well. So I know folks are eager about folks like Abe Lucas and other players on that list. But the reality is, these were two of the most critical guys to get off that PUP list. Abe Lucas now becomes the next most critical guy to get off the PUP list. And the other names that I'm curious about are on the NFI list. Those are Nehemiah Pritchett and DJ James, the rookie corners who showed up on there just last week. So not great that those guys did not get, past their physicals yet, but really, really great news that Jerome Baker and Tyrel Dodson, T-Dot, as everybody likes to call him, are going to be there. Can't wait to see it. Really big news. And that was what I wanted to come on here and just share. If you missed it, big news. Also, got some good feedback on the Seahawks 7 that I started this morning. We're going to try that, see how I want to do that, but we're going to play with that, where each and every day I will try to give you the top Seahawks news in 7 minutes or less. And this will probably be part of it tomorrow, but keep an eye on that. Also had a great interview with Danny Kelly early today. If you haven't watched that, had a really good conversation about a lot of things going on around the league and about the Seahawks and where they are a little bit underrated. No surprise, Danny thinks Geno is at the top of that list. I also talked about Connor Williams on that pod and played a little sound toward the end of the Danny Kelly interview about how he is considered, at least by the Miami beat writers, as one of the best linemen in the NFL last year when he was on the field. So we do not know yet. He was making his visit today. We will find out if there's any new news and share that as it happens. But for now, the big news is that your Seahawks starting linebackers have passed their physical and they will be ready to go for camp. Please give the show a like, click subscribe. I will be giving you tons of content over the coming season as I am dedicating myself to covering the Seahawks as my full-time focus. So now's the time to join. Had a bunch of people join on patreon.com/hawkblogger. Community's growing there, which is great. Also have had people join on the YouTube membership. Absolutely appreciate all of that support. If nothing else, a like and a subscribe would be great. Until I see you all next, who knows? Maybe there'll be more Seahawks news that breaks here shortly. But until then, have a great rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow. I'm Brian Emhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HawkBlogger. This has been a special episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care.